We begin with Scott Walker, 60s heartthrob who once rivaled the Beatles for popularity. He and his group, the Walker Brothers, were responsible for such massive hits as The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore. His modern-day fans include the likes of David Bowie, Jarvis Cocker and Alison Goldfrapp. But if his music and his name are still well known, his face certainly isn't, because Scott Walker also happens to be one of pop music's most determined recluses. It's been more than 10 years since he released an album or gave a television interview. But now, with a new record on the way, Verity Sharp got to meet him.
I'm good at solitary, you know, always have been. I can spend lots of time on my own, I'm fine.
The brilliant yet enigmatic Scott Walker is probably best known as the good-looking frontman of the Walker Brothers, the band that arrived in Britain from California in 1965, causing a huge sensation with #1 hits like Make It Easy on Yourself and The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore.
My particular being, I guess, took over and I separated off.
At the height of his fame, when he had it all, the looks, the voice, the stardom, Walker chose simply to walk away, to pursue instead the uncompromising music that he believed in, whatever the cost.
21. He took music to a place that it hasn't actually ever been since.
You can't really think that a human being can create such fantastic music, you know?
Walker's music has remained underground, yet his maverick genius has inspired generations of pop artists. His influence borne out by the number of musicians who've signed up to celebrate the man in a forthcoming documentary.
I have a green light for 50,000.
It was definitely painting pictures within your mind, but not in a kind of cliched way.
This is proper music, and it was really beautiful. I was just totally captivated by it.
You have a kind of a reputation, a notoriety really, for being a very private person, if not quite a reclusive person. Have you become more reclusive, or are you just naturally like that, or did you have to sort of remove yourself from people?
Well, I mean, a friend of mine says I'm not a recluse. I'm low-key, you know, and that's the best way to put it. You know, I mean, it's like people who say, you know, I'm not insane. They probably are insane, but I'm not a recluse. You know?
So when people sort of say, well, we haven't seen anything of Scott Walker for the last 10 years, you know, you haven't consciously been trying to avoid people.
No. Well, some people, but not. No. Generally, if I've got nothing to say or do, you know, it's pointless to be around, I think.
Loneliness is a cloak you wear, a deep shade.
So how comfortable were you back in the 60s when it was all, you know, you were kind of as famous as the Beatles, weren't you, back then with the Walker Brothers? Did you feel completely, you know, out of character?
At first, it was fine. You know, I mean, I hate, you know, people in the business who bitch about, you know, the business. It's such an awful life. At first, it was fantastic for the first couple of albums or so. But then it really wears you down. In those days, it was particularly, I mean, today it would probably be a lot better. But touring in those days was very primitive, you know, and it was really a lot of hard work. And you couldn't find anything good to eat anywhere, you know. I mean, the hours were unbelievable. You'd end up with terrible curries and stuff on the road, you know, and it was really difficult.
And make it.
The brothers shocked the world when they split in '67, and Walker's subsequent disappearance fueled rumours of his whereabouts and of a mental breakdown. I don't know if this is myth, this story that when you wanted to get out, you completely ran, really, and you went away to a monastery. Is this true?
Yes, but not for that reason. I went to learn Gregorian chant.
Did you really?
Yes, yeah.
Very
see,
to spell that, really.
My hands stop shaking. You remember all the pain, but still come back to me.
Walker remained disillusioned with the music industry until he stumbled across the music of French singer Jacques Brel, who inspired him to embark on a solo career.
I met a girl who was working in the Playboy Club, and yeah, I know you. And this is a German girl, and we were back at her place one night and drinking quite a lot, and she said, "Oh, you got to hear this guy," and she put him on.
Adieu Antoine, je t'aimais pas bien. Adieu Antoine, je t'aimais pas bien, tu sais, j'en crève.
I was so excited. Then I wanted to bring this to people. I was so excited about what I found, and it was, you know, it was great being in the studio and being able to do that.
And if one day I should become a singer with a Spanish bum who sings for women of great virtue.
Walker's first solo albums included much of Brel's work, but gradually he began experimenting with his own compositions, using different rhythms and styles. Drifting away from his record-buying public, his later albums were commercial failures, and Walker's time at the top was over.
The problem really started with my third album, because my third album was practically the whole thing written in 3/4. I mean, ridiculous, you know, to write a whole album in 3/4. You know, you can't dance to it so easily, and you know, unless you wanted to waltz all night. You know, it's like, and I think, you know, before I'd given something that people could hang on to, you know, but then it kind of drifted away. I became kind of a leper. I mean, people didn't really want to touch me after, you know, commercially, after the albums I started to make. And after that, I don't know what happened. A whole lot of drinking, you know, that kind of stuff, you know.
Walker totally disappeared from public view, only resurfacing as a solo artist with the album Climate of the Hunter in 1984, and then over a decade later with the very experimental album Tilt.
People say that your music is very different now and much harder now, but actually do you feel like you're doing the same?
It is a lot harder now. It's very shaved down, but I think the mood is probably the same. I mean, the mood is, you know, the mood is shaved down as well, but it's probably, if you go back there, you can find whoever that young guy was in the woodwork, you know.
But it's a long way from the easy pop ballads of the brothers. Walker's new work is complex and challenging, yet it has still attained legendary status amongst his peers in the music industry.
Scott Walker is a real serious artist, a very conscious artist, as someone who really thought about the medium that he was working in and thought, how could I take this apart? What can I do in this medium that you can't do in any other way?
It's like an intrepid explorer or something, you know, it's somebody who goes to a part of the world that nobody's ever been to before. You have to admire somebody who is so single-minded.
Maybe there's a sense that it's like music for musicians rather than music for punters, you know.
Well, I don't know. I hope not. I mean, there's a lot of people writing songs that are accessible. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of that kind of music out there. I hope anyway, that if you work at it, you know, you'll connect with it on some level.
Walker's latest album, The Drift, took 7 years to make. It follows the same avant-garde path and includes some very radical percussion techniques.
It's got to sound almost like a sheet of metal, you know. It's just a wee bit musical. Yeah, okay.
Your music's kind of becoming sparser and sparser.
Yeah, it is.
So is The Drift, you know, even more bare?
Yes, it is. It's really shaved down, and in fact, there's no arrangements per se on it. You know, I mean, years ago, I used to have and use a lot of glorious arrangements. You know, but now it's big blocks of sound. I mean, the orchestra's there, but it's noises and big blocks of sound, and so it's even come down to that.
Jesse, are you listening?
Walker hasn't toured since the 70s, and The Drift is only his third solo album in over 30 years.
You obviously do work slowly.
Yeah.
I mean, you prefer to work slowly.
Yeah, yeah.
To let it come to you rather than...
That's right. That's right. If you force it, it always shows. It always shows when when it's the filler. You know, you're filling your stuff up, and you simply got to be patient.
Yeah. And is your head already busy on the next thing?
Well, I've already got ideas for the next thing, and I'm hoping I can move on. You know, because I can't listen to this anymore. You know, it's yeah.
Will it be another 10 years?
No, I hope not. No. Be alive by then. Probably not.